So reuse is definitely reshaping the way that people think about waste and defaulting to recycling. Reuse is helpful for other people, less expensive than recycling, better for the environment, and has tax benefits for it. So I'm proud to say that we are pushing for the new frontier of sustainability with both companies and homes through reuse first as an option when it comes to finding homes for products that you no longer want.
Welcome to Women Leaders on the Move, a Her C-Suite radio podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Benamou. I'm also the founder of Her C-Suite, a powerful network community where we're creating an ecosystem of limitless opportunities for women to meet, engage, and thrive in meaningful ways. We provide mastermind circles for the arc of a woman's career, entrepreneur connect circles for women entrepreneurs, and we also offer event services. I hope you will check it all out at hercsuite.com. Today's guest is Jessica Gonzalez. She is a CEO and entrepreneur and leads Happen Ventures as it transforms landfill-bound waste into valuable community resources. She possesses 16 years of experience building and scaling international startups from the ground up. Jessica is a Latina woman and proud single mother of her amazing children, and she embraces that the path to building a business has never been easy for her, but she lives and works with the attitude that nothing is impossible. You're going to hear a very personal story of the arc of her career and also all the amazing things that her company is doing today to change the way we think about reusing items and repurposing them for our daily lives. I cannot wait for you to hear this episode, so let's get started now. Jessica, I'm really excited to welcome you to Women Leaders on the Move. Thank you for being on the show today.
Super excited. Thanks for having me.
I think all the things that you're doing are going to fascinate our audience. But before we get started with all the things you're doing now, I always like to talk a little bit about the arc of your career that brought you to this moment today.
The arc of my career is wild. I've been always a use your mistakes as fuel for pivoting and moving forward. But there was a particular arc that I didn't think I would ever get out of. It was a hole that I had kind of gone in because I felt like I was Superwoman. I'm like, I could take it. And then that changed everything for me and got me to where I was today. After COVID, went through almost bankruptcy, was in the event world. Everything was shut down. Had to pivot and figure out what life would be after that. The scaling back up to events took a very long time. Unfortunately, during that pivot was a divorce, and I had 2 children, part of that. So navigating through the trajectory of a divorce, then a new relationship on top of that, then bankruptcy, selling my company and everything that I knew to another company, and then not having any direction because in the company I was in, I just didn't feel empowered or, really, it was such a change. And all of that colliding together into one, I felt like my Netflix and chill days were going from one day where I would sulk to weeks at a time. And it was finally getting out of that hole and really just going through it that got me to where I am today, which is my ex-spouse is living with me right now in a transition to a new home with my partner. My new relationship is super healthy, no longer in bankruptcy, doing really well, have a new business, got my old business back that I sold, and have tons of direction and a lot of passion for what I do now. So I think it took all of that weight that I was holding and me just saying not today and pushing through that got me to the point where I am. But if I didn't have that, I would probably still be coasting. And that arc was very impactful for my both personal and professional life.
And that's a short amount of time too. That's a lot to go through. And it feels like not that long ago, but it does feel like long ago, right? Like 4 years ago. And I know you and I were talking, I was in trade shows, you were doing events, and everything stopped in March. I mean, it was devastating to the industry. So I can understand and feel for you. I'm sorry that you had to
Oh,
go
of
through
course.
that.
Well, everybody, no one knew, everybody went through something and nobody knew
Yeah.
when the end was. I think that was the most frustrating thing. Like, I think we could all appreciate holding on, but when we don't know how long we have to hold on for, I think that's what really got everybody in running a business, growing family, and it can all crumble, which it did for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, now you are doing something so incredibly fascinating. And I know I hadn't heard of this before as myself. And I was like, what is this? So talk a little bit about the pivot and what you're doing now, because I think it's amazing.
Thank you. Yes. When I pivoted, I had no direction and I was working in the events world. I was trying different business ideas out. And then an idea came across my desk about a lot of excess COVID waste. They were landfilling this stuff, incinerating it. And, my dad's really, really philanthropic, just has his own little nonprofit thing going on. And, I asked him and he gave me a couple numbers and we found ways to divert truckloads of COVID related products. The same thing that obliviated me, we were able to kind of ride the back on, which is wild. We started to divert truckloads of hand sanitizer, face masks, medical supplies that were near expiration to communities that can actually use them. And then that's where the idea of reuse came in. When I was just looking at the landscape and all the people that had this problem, we realized that no one is creating systems around reusing product instead of throwing it out. It just defaults to recycling. And for me, I'm kind of like, why are you going to take something that's already in physical form, break it down, go through all that energy and that time and that expense, and then build the same or another thing back up when you could just reuse it and then help people at the same time? And once that idea kind of clicked and we started building the business backwards around, okay, well, how do we monetize this, but also make it affordable for businesses? And if it's sustainability wise, if it's not affordable, they're not going to switch. And we figured it out. And now we've been able to divert thousands of truckloads of items, not just PPE, from beauty care to baby diapers to medical supplies to apparel to communities at no cost, and help the companies be more sustainable, save them money, and get them tax benefits. And it's just been something that's blown up. And to me, it's mind blowing that no one is doing this, at least at the scale that we're trying to get to. So that was the pivot. It's become very rewarding, mainly because we've been able to help so many people. And it's wild, the things that we see being thrown out just because it's cheaper. It's been a great last couple of years to build this out.
I'm thinking logistics has to be a very complex thing. And, having done trade shows and all the trucking and all of like the here to there, how did you learn that piece of it? Was it through your business that you were doing before, or how did you figure that out?
Great question. I always like to say there's nothing I can't learn over a weekend on Google. And so it was a mix of
I love it.
I have to figure this out. And it was a mix of the company that I worked for, I sold to, and then I worked with them. They did a lot of logistics. So I started to understand how logistics work. And then we started adding a layer of tech to it. So now how we've been able to solve the hurdle of logistics, which is, I feel 60% of the cost of anything of moving, waste, we've been able to have our nonprofit partners go and pick it up. We do it hyper local. Our AI tech platform connects the needs. So we have thousands of nonprofits. We know what they need. We know their location. And so we're able to hyper localize where these things are placed based on nonprofits' capabilities and needs and what the store doesn't need anymore. And we make that match instantaneously where we don't have to really touch it. So that allows us to bring our costs down. And then the in-betweens of tech allows for that logistics piece to go smoothly. And we just leverage a lot of the nonprofits' resources to help them get these items. That helps us, again, become very competitive when big landfill truck is coming in to pick it up and we have to compete against that. So that's really been the crux of being able to maintain a profitable opportunity that's both helpful and allows us to grow and add more nonprofits, get more companies to go in and divert more product by figuring that little piece out and making it easy so it's not super complicated.
I'm just thinking about disaster relief is also a time, and this is going back a long time, almost 20 years, or maybe it is 20 years, when Hurricane Katrina happened. And I was in trade shows and I thought, okay, I'm going to do a clothing drive, and thought this is going to be great. And we're going to ship it out and people are going to need it in Florida. And then it was like, nobody wanted it. Nobody. And so I had to like rethink about, okay, they don't want it there, but a lot of people, it turned out, wanted it in Haiti. And so we had to like shift and like redirect this truck that was already on its way going to a trade show, because I piggybacked a trade show and like got the stuff. And it's all those little moving pieces. So how do you use AI? Is there any technology that like looks at that kind of landscape, or are you more so kind of looking at a location where the product is available?
It's twofold. So one, where's the product located? What is the product? And that's from the retailer, the brand, the distributor, the manufacturer. What is that product? What does it consist of? Is it a product type? And two, every nonprofit gets onboarded onto our vendor system, meaning they tell us what they want in advance. So, there might be cases where someone might not want something when they get it, and then we get it to another nonprofit, but we already know in advance their needs, their mission, what they're trying to do. So making the match is a lot easier. That's what's really been able to help us versus, we try not to assume in those cases because it gets very expensive. But we already know, hey, this nonprofit's women empowerment, so these are health and beauty items would be perfect for that. And we let them know what the items are before they can accept it or they can decline it. So we've been able to manage that process just in advance before promising anything to anybody. So we want to make sure the nonprofits are happy. We want to make sure that the business is happy. So we're kind of keeping our eye on both. And then the tech is what matches it. So you're putting, if you could imagine, like our search button would be, I have a product in Nashville. Well, give me the nonprofits that are looking for beauty items in Nashville within 25 miles. And it'll spit out what these nonprofits are. It will send an email to all of them with the product, and they get to accept whether they want it or they don't. Once they accept it, they have 3 to 5 days to pick it up. They'll get the address. They have a little code that they put in. So we've allowed tech to make that process easier, more streamlined, instead of us having to manage thousands of donations daily. The tech matches it. And then we just support the nonprofits in case there's an issue with it.
And is this happening at a distribution center or at the point of sale? I mean, for example, I'll just use like big box store. Is it happening at the store? Or are you sending it with the truck to a trucking? I'm trying to figure out that piece of it.
We connect the dots at point of retail store to the nonprofit directly. So we try to have as little movement of the product as possible, less expensive, more sustainable. So every retailer that we work with has a box from Happen Ventures in the back. They have a little infographic of what goes in. When it's filled, they're literally just doing a drop down store number, their dedicated URL, and hit pick up. One button. Nonprofits in the area are alerted. They accept if they want the box or not. The first one that accepts it gets it. They get a little code. They go into the back. They know what hours, the location, everything. They scan the QR code, put in the code, and boom, they get it. We don't want to truck things from one place to another. It's very resource heavy. It's very labor heavy. When we could just connect them at the source, and it makes it a lot less expensive. And we're helping more people. We like to call the underserved nonprofits. So we're working with smaller nonprofits who have needs that are not particularly being served. They don't have grant money or funding. That small volume and the hyper localization just makes it easier to get more access to more nonprofits quicker.
And what is your process for finding the opportunities? Like, how do people find out about you to know that you're doing this amazing service? Some of these big companies that have surplus, how do they find out?
It is so hard for us because typically, you throw a website up, there's an interest, people are searching for stuff, but people don't know that this is an option. Everyone defaults to recycling as the most sustainable. So we've just done old school calling 101, emailing, calling, LinkedIn, just outreach to let them know that there's a better method and something exists and it's less expensive. So typically doing that has been more successful than just trying to divert people to our website and, getting in the hands or in the ears and eyes of sustainability folk in these organizations has helped because they get it. They know, they understand the value of, the program that we're creating. So just been old school, banging on doors, not being scared, that I'm talking to a Walmart or Target or whatever, just showing them what we have, because I know it can tremendously help. So it makes the calls a lot easier.
Is there a type of product? I mean, is it only not perishable, or is it, is there a type of thing that you don't like to get into because of freezer stuff or fresh stuff? Is there anything like that? Do you stick more to like the beauty products and
We do a little bit of everything. We're very solutions based. So if we find that there is a waste channel, we're like, let's figure it out. There's a lot of programs right now that are wonderful. There's a lot of nonprofit programs, food donation, food rescue programs. So we work alongside a lot of them and we take everything. We know that there's needs on all different sides. I'll give you an example of something wild. Now we're talking about retail, but we also do this for manufacturing, distributors, chemical companies. We're working with a waste management company. They had a client who had windmill blades, and part of the building of these windmill blades and the maintenance of it is these carbon fiber scraps, and they were going to landfill. So we found a place that would take them and use them as pool lining. So we were able to take items, it's not just consumer goods, items that we're scrapping, and find alternative uses for them. And now we're, in a cadence where every time they have that, it's going to a more sustainable and more cost-effective way. So we take everything, chemicals, we're working on like pool shock treatments. There are YMCA's that could get free pool chemicals that they were going to throw out. So we go beyond retail. You give us something that's going to landfill that can have a life. We want to just inspect it and see if we can make that match.
And from a sustainability, I think there's this, and you can speak to this, I'm sure, and I've heard about this, about landfills, and the US doesn't have clean recyclables. And so where does it actually go? And we have a misconception. I know here in Chicago, you have like a pickups of our recyclable things, but it's actually not going to where you think it is. And so I'm curious about the positive impact of not going to that landfill, because it's not just sitting there. And even if you recycle it, it's not going. So how are you able to talk to businesses and say, like, listen, this is actually much more of a sustainable option?
There's a lot of greenwashing happening all over the place. And we try to educate. One, we start with the hierarchy, right? Reduce. So we're a reduce, reuse company first. Like, let's get the problem before it becomes waste. And through education, I think we've been able to sway a lot of companies into making kind of this decision. And we still have a lot of work to do because there's still a lot of waste channels that can be diverted into reusable. So as we get them, we find a solution, and then we can replicate that. So education and knowing that this solution exists is a big one. Creating programs that make sense. I'll give you one example. Having a family and kids, they continuously outgrow product. And I saw at one of the major retailers, they had a bin where you can recycle your car seat. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, why would you recycle a car seat when you can just clean it and give it to a family in need? So we're trying to create programs like Grow and Give, where municipalities can have a place where items go that your kids and families no longer need, and the nonprofit will disinfect it and then hand it out, and we'll give them all the tools to disinfect it and clean it and test it and everything. But just creating programs and educating and solving problems just one at a time and making it affordable, I think is going to help pave the way to making this be the first thought on people's minds as opposed to recycling. And I think the money thing really helps tremendously, because if we're able to save, then the question is, why wouldn't you? And that's what we ask on the call, is like, if we're saving you money, if we're being more sustainable, if we're helping tons of people, if we're giving you tax donation receipts, why wouldn't you go with us? And that's been the arc of the company, being able to move people from the traditional recycling mindset into beneficial reuse, and has allowed us to grow tremendously.
And where are you seeing your future? So looking forward, what's your strategy for the future for your company?
The ultimate goal is to have every municipality have a beneficial reuse center where local nonprofits could come in and get access to items, all different kinds, from kitchenware to kids, to really make that impact from there to businesses on top, and reuse be something that is put above higher than recycling. You can't get rid of recycling. There are things that have to be recycled, absolutely. We don't want to eliminate good plastics that are really helping save lives. But what we want to do is think of reduce and reuse first. And that's the trajectory that we want to get into, and make sure that every major corporation is thinking that way instead of going right to recycle. And we want to help build that infrastructure and make it accessible to all the nonprofits, and make it accessible to regular people, make it accessible and easy for retailers to implement, and brands and manufacturers. So that's our trajectory, is just getting this out there, making it simple, making it like a no-brainer. So like when you think of perhaps maybe not just a recycling bin, maybe a reuse bin next time. So now you have a reuse bin, a compostable bin, a recycling bin, and a trash bin. And being able to make differences in that way, I think I would be ecstatic.
Amazing, amazing. And how much has your company grown in terms of infrastructure? I would imagine that it takes a lot of coordination, or does the tech platform take a lot of the lifting for you?
The tech does help tremendously. We've scaled, I think year over year, we've grown about 170%. So we're catapulting up. As we're doing this like hockey stick growth, we're making sure the tech can take on the thousands of locations that we're adding. So we're making it very robust. We have an amazing team worldwide. So, we've been able to scale easily. So it's a mix of wonderful people and great teammates that love the mission, that get it, that are, empowered to really, take it to next, and then the tech that's supporting them. So that the mix of the two has been able to allow us to grow exponentially and take on 1,000 stores a month without a problem. But I won't say it's easy, but it's getting done.
And as a entrepreneur, it does take a toll. What are you doing for yourself in all of this? I'm curious.
I'm in the middle of I'm a mom of 2 kids. I'm in the middle of IVF, which is, I want to grow my family. We're moving to Puerto Rico. So we have a lot of layers of things that are going on. I used to measure success in how much I hustled, the top line revenue of my company. And what I've measured success in the last 2 to 3 years since that arc has been having the time to spend with my kids. And I have to say that I built a team that I can spend days with them, and I know things are humming. So that really helps me ground myself, take care of myself, because kids don't care where you are in business and in life. They bring you back to who you are. And having the time with them, to me, has been just really the plus to all this, is being able to not worry, take an afternoon, go watch their games, take them to Puerto Rico, and move. So that really it's giving and made me feel more whole in myself. So that's my time, including, I have to say, I do dive into trash TV couple hours a night when I need to listen, engage with everything. So, Bravo and all that is definitely on my list.
If people want to find you, and I know we talked about like you're outbound, but now we're talking inbound of people finding you, where's the best place for them to learn about all the things that you're doing?
Our website, we're revamping it in the next couple of weeks, happenventures.com. Not happy, I get happy all the time. Happen, make it happen. That would be the best way. There's a little contact form. I see every form that goes in, and I hop in. If it's somebody that's reaching out to me directly, find me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to talk to any women in business, any, women in different paths of their career. So reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect. But those would be the 2 best places. Or on a soccer field in West Orange, New Jersey, watching my kids play soccer. If you find me there, bring me a margarita. I'm probably tired.
I love it. That's so great. Jessica, I've had so much fun talking to you, and amazing. Congratulations on all the things and the way that you have pivoted after the COVID, what happened, and growing an amazing business. Thank you for being with me today. It's been wonderful.
Thank you for having me and letting me tell my story. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. I hope you feel inspired to take action and rethink the way that you approach recycling and consider reusing instead. This podcast is sponsored by Her C-Suite Connect Circles, designed specifically for women entrepreneurs who are coaches, consultants, and leaders that want to have their women in one place. Female clients are thriving inside Her C-Suite and learning from our LMS learning courses that we offer for coaches, easy to start and easy to implement. I hope you will check it all out at hercsuite.com. If you found this episode helpful, we would be so grateful if you would rate and review on your favorite podcast, and don't forget to share it with friends. Keep shining your light bright. The world needs you.